By saying thank you to the funnel organizers, thank you to everybody who's involved in making it happen, and thank you to all the presenters who I am proud and happy to share the stage with. And really, that's where the presentation begins, because without the speakers, there is no show. And this is the whole point. This is what the world feels like to me in 2025. The sonic divorce, man's estrangement from nature's music. Estrangement is a reduction or cutting off of communication between people who were formerly close. In this case, man and nature. This is what we are all here to heal. It's the division from nature, from her gifts, freedom, her law, natural law, and her music.
Hi, welcome to FUNL4, Humanity Rising, Inspiring Care to Action. My name is Leslie Powers. My presentation is called The Power of Music, Bridging Matter and Spirit. You can find all my material at my website, alivethrive.life. My father was a musician, and as a child, I was alert to every time he would sit down at the piano or organ. His music was a meaningful and memorable experience for me, and it connected me to him. It awakened my true soul expression, dance, and this became a clue to something I am still called to do for my deepest fulfillment.
Well now, you're in for quite a treat, as this conversation was as delightful and insightful. Konrad Rogoz and Leslie Powers both had great presentations in the Funnel Conference. Freedom Under Natural Law, the fourth one that happened last February of this year. And it is kind of recommended that you check those out before listening to this, as it might be a little tricky to follow. But nonetheless, we're talking about music, which is universal, and there's a lot of practical applications that we all kind of bring to the table, but it's mostly, Leslie and Konrad chatting, and just some musings with the musicians a little bit, and just to get more insights and stuff with just how they crafted their presentations, and what inspired them to make them, and all that good stuff. So check out freedomundernaturallaw.com for more information. All the conference material is there of this year's and everything prior. Leslie is one of the head leaders, organizers of that group. And as you might have learned, I've been helping out this year quite a bit, and And Konrad's no stranger. I've done at least 5 videos with him up to this point, and we're, currently constantly in contact because we're organizing this Sound Path to Freedom music festival that's happening in September, most likely. So much more on that, which is included some of the details in this video. And you can check out that Sound Path to Freedom, soundpath.org, that's the website, or Sound Path to Freedom, we have our official YouTube channel. So we're going to be loading up more cool content and watch parties on there. So please tune into those.
We're coloring outside the lines a bit,
I really loved that it was like the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, basically like holding a pillar on each day, kind of bringing a different style, a different feel of this vast topic, and it was inspiring. So.
And it was so different. You really did. It was amazing to watch, because it was so, I think it was the most unique presentation, because it was not only I was talking about music, but yours was musical. Like there was music the whole time. And not only that, is you did an overview. Like it's all of these separate things that we've learned over time, the 432 tuning, and then how everything is resonance and frequency, and then the healing properties, and it's kind of like all integrated into one, and it's a song. So I'm like, damn.
It was interesting how the music, it all happened so intuitively and easily. All of that music and adding it and editing it and getting it. And it almost felt like there was something else guiding me to it. And the synchronicities of it, of the songs and the lyrics and where they showed up, just all fit in without a lot of effort. It felt like on my part, it was very fast, the addition of the music. But I look at it and it's like kind of complex at the same time, you know. And I'd never added music tracks actually to my presentations ever. So it was the first time I had ever done that. And it could have gone badly, but it didn't. It just all flowed. So I was really happy with that. And I knew it would be unique and a little goofy in my own way, but and even humorous in some ways, which I decided I would just allow and bring out that part of me that's a little, you know, more playful or, you know, whatever, you know, I don't know. It's subtle.
That's amazing, but it doesn't surprise me because I thought I had the same thing going on. At first, when I'm preparing for it, I'm thinking, man, like, how am I going to do this? I really wanted it to come across a certain way. And then when I kind of put it together, I had a couple of like separate sheets of paper like this, and I put them together. I'm like, oh, there's going to be 7 of them, and I'm going to have an octave thing going. And that's the way it set itself up. So I also experienced those synchronicities. And I also went outside of the box for myself because I'm thinking this whole thing about music. And I'm like, okay, I got to do my song. I got to do a song. So this is also something I've never done in any kind of a video or anything. I've really kept like the music separate from recording and talking like this, you know, the work. And then in the biggest moment, I figure, okay, then I'll do this, and whatever it is, I'll just roll with it. And we both did that. And you included your dance, which was awesome. I think that's like the cherry on top of the presentation, because not only did you get all that information out there, you showed that it's you being free and having fun. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you. I wondered if that took courage. You did mention it, but like, was that because it took courage for me, mostly because I don't want to be taken the wrong way. Like, I don't want to be too self-aggrandizing and then be doing a music video in my presentation. And it really took like man, I got to just take the next step and just dive in there. And I saw your dance, which was great, and it really like verified, like brought the authenticity to what you're saying. I wanted to ask you about how that experience was for you to do that.
Yeah, it was I had a lot of mixed feelings about it because I can be very self-critical, and I know that there's a lot of critical eyes when they look at women moving and things like that. And I'm not like a professional dancer. I'm not like you know, for a real dancer to watch me, they'd be like critiquing my dancing and all that, right? And so it was a bit courageous in a way to put, and it was, I would have preferred to have taken time to really record more of me dancing and pick clips that I felt better about, honestly. You know, I actually like the one that was like a separate video. I enjoyed that a lot, and I felt good about it, the brighter, lighter one. And that was my test. I was testing putting music in the video, and it just worked out okay. And so I was like, no, I want to use this because it's spontaneous, it's authentic, it's fun. I liked it. So I added that in. And then I did some other like just spontaneous recording when like the Saturday night when my deadline was like that really encroaching. And so I didn't have time to like be picky. And that's what I was nervous about, that I just kind of was scrolling through my phone, taking clips, like just picking something, you know, and it wasn't as deliberate as I would have liked, where I could feel like, oh, you know, I really like how that is. So that was the part that took courage, really, was just kind of setting caution to the wind and just be like, the point of this is to, in a way, be humble. Like to not be so uptight about technique and feeling like I can't dance if I don't have training, or I can't sing if I don't have like a really solid voice. It's more about the experience of just doing it from an internal standpoint of expression and alchemy and connection. So part of also what was in the recording was just a spontaneous like jam that I just audio taped on my phone at a gathering. So the whole presentation that there was inspired by two things. One was my father and son, kind of this connection in the beginning that I talked about, but then it was also that video by Glenn Horton, and I was at a gathering at his house where he's a musician and he creates these environments where we come and we talk philosophy, we read mystical quotes, we jam, play music. He's a musician, he pulls out songs, other friends bring their musical instruments, and it's just free form. And but he'll throw in sometimes those little videos that he's created. And at the time, this particular video really inspired me. And it was while watching it that I was like, oh my God, I need to incorporate this. I need to do a presentation on music. And so that's how it got started. But I wanted to bring in that element of like, this is for everybody. And you don't need to like be a trained artist or meet a certain standard, you know, to connect with sound and music and your body and your voice and everything.
Especially that standard of 440 hertz. Huh? We don't need that shit, but yeah. Really well said, Leslie. Yeah, that's great.
I'm glad you answered it this way, because I thought this a while ago. So often the people who are self-critical and self-conscious are the people that have no business. Like, well, we don't like you have like, I thought the dance was really good, and I saw it, I'm like, wow, she's got like rhythm, like it had a like soul, and rhythm was very natural and intuitive. So if you would have said you were dancing for like a couple years or something, I'd say okay. I wouldn't find it. To my untrained eye, I wouldn't find anything. And I think so many people see that, and you know, they wouldn't like, confidence speaks so much, and we should be more confident because we have talents. Everybody has these talents. If you can cultivate them and really work with the gifts you have. On the other hand, a lot of the people that they get all that training, or they go to school for years, whatever it is, that they feel confident, but the confidence is like the pillars of that are external approval. So many people are just confident because they've done what society says is the thing that makes you a musician or an artist. But what makes you a musician or an artist is just that it's genuinely you, and that you love doing it. You have a purpose for doing it. You know?
Yeah. And I think that the more trained and like visible you are as a dancer, singer, artist, or whatever, then I think it potentially can become like a cage that keeps you in a high level of critical thinking around what you're doing, right? And may take away some of the spontaneity and the fun if you're not careful. Yeah. But yeah, I just like to have fun, and I want, yeah.
I'm digging those logos. They're changing them all the time, Derek. I see.
Little logo DJ over here, you know. Yeah, definitely. And that's a great point you made, Konrad and Leslie, in regards to like confidence, because you can also see, you know, students of Mark Passio that are kind of lacking that, or lacking certain things within like that rhetoric stage to, you know, really get themselves out there and stuff. And so, and I just say that because, you know, it's just his sentiments that, you know, I was like shocked, and like, honestly, I was kind of pissed off and like confused when he said in his podcast that, you know, the majority of his students suck. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, like, how are people hitting the wall? Is it the confidence? Is it certain things that, you know, yeah, it takes time for these things. And Konrad, you and I were talking about just how these things, it's a process, right? And we have to take that humble path and, you know, do what you're comfortable with, but also we have to be more comfortable outside of these comfort zones and stuff. And yeah, Leslie, with the courage of like just putting it out there, because, you know, it's like, whatever. This is me. I'm being genuine and authentic. I love music. This is how I groove to it and move to it and all this stuff. And voila, it's like we can't really care what anyone's going to think about all these things that we do, because yeah, it's like we could do the best job ever, and there's always going to be some idiot haters. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of that word, because I don't use that lightly like other people, but you know what I mean. After you, I got a train coming through. Hear that shit?
It's marking your words.
This is just means you're on track.
Yeah, I think that part of the reason people are hesitant to put their work out there is that anxiety about criticism and being scrutinized, and also, like, for me, I had when I was first imagining putting out videos and doing stuff, I had flashes of like embarrassing moments of my life, and I had like worry about saying something that was inaccurate. Like I didn't want to put my foot in my mouth. I didn't want to say something that then somebody's going to come back and say, and just tear apart, and and then I have we all have our own issues around social experiences, and feeling small or feeling invisible or having been bullied, or we have different variations, so there's a lot of folks who really are sincere and authentic around this message of natural law and freedom, but have their own storylines of social criticism or hurt. And so it puts you face to face with those fears and those experiences. So there's a whole transformation, an inner work that comes right in your face and is required, I think, to step forward into any kind of public exposure. And where a lot of us are introverts and we're outcasts in ways. And so it's quite the job to put yourself out there. Some people have already gone through that veil of that way and like said, fuck it, I don't give a shit, I'm just putting myself out there. So, but others, it's a longer journey.
Yeah. I absolutely echo those sentiments. What you said, it's absolutely true, and I'm just going to try to add to it. Like, I'm going to try to do a visual, because I may not say it the perfect way, but the way I see this is it's a direction. Confidence versus, what are we going to say, like anxiety or insecurity, or the idea of just taking in information but not putting yourself out there. So, and I actually think that these are like fundamental polarities, and this is one of the things, the major things keeping us enslaved, which was kind of the whole reason I did that presentation that I did about music, and really how we're lacking this. It's kind of like a flowering expression type of a thing. So when you come on in front of the microphone or you dance, whatever it is, you're basically, you're the only one there. You're the focus of attention, and you're putting something out there that is going to be seen and scrutinized and taken in by everyone around you. So if you're not feeling good about this, that central point, that 0 point, then you're not going to feel good about it. And the result, we can tell. Like, we can even tell where a soccer player is running up to the ball and shooting a penalty, like, with a straight face. Somehow we could see in that body language that he's nervous. We know what that looks like. We can sense it on each other. But other people, for whatever reason, they run up to that ball and they just want to kick a goal, and we just see them just kind of innocently, freely going on about that. And that's that kind of flowering energy. It's the same kind of energy that makes plants grow. Like, it's a springtime energy, right? We're in the midpoint of spring now. Contrast that with this idea of feeling small, like being an introvert, like you're withdrawing into yourself, and you're thinking about everybody else that's watching you, how they're going to pick you apart. So it's a directional thing. And I think these are the two fundamental polarities, love and fear. This, where it's collapsing on you, this is fear, where you just kind of want to hide. You don't want to get out there. You want to be anonymous. You think about all the things that could go wrong. So have I completely conquered that in my life? No, of course not. Nobody completely conquers that, but you move towards that. And to be happy, healthy, develop your talents, even to acquire wealth, all of these things that we want to connect with others, we want this energy, that love, expansive energy. Even if there are a lot of holes in you, you're never going to be perfect, but it's about finding that kind of a thing to just be happy with who you are. Uh, and that is an infectious thing. It is like a resonance, a frequency that we want to match. We when we see somebody doing that, like it's not about like the most beautiful girl in a room. It's not about all of her attributes and all that. It's about like is she having fun? Is she like loving being there right now? And as a guy watching that, you're like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do, and that's so I would connect it that way and say that that is fundamentally what it comes down to. It is love and fear ultimately. Like these are the stakes.
Well said. Yes, I totally agree. I think that's a great way to frame it. And the image that came to my mind was like the road to that spontaneity and that authentic, like feminine expression involves a lot of, oh my God, sort of removing layers of hard armor, and that over the years, to some degree, we've all placed to protect our vulnerable expression. And it's a great mission, really, to work on removing those so that you can feel free. To me, it's very connected to freedom. This idea of finding I like how you said it, your 0 point of self, right? And knowing that it's valuable, that you're valuable, that our voice is valuable, that our inspiration, what we're inspired to do and create, has value, and that we can step towards it and kind of push aside all the attacks, that generally are coming from within our own head, that have been programmed there from different experiences of our life that have made us feel that we're not important enough, we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not talented enough, whatever it might be, or we need to be doing something else. I don't know, my cat is off the hook today, just like attacking me. She doesn't like when I move my hands. But anyway, it's like, it is a process, I think, of just, it's like you can imagine the hero's journey or the dark night of the soul, and there's shadow figures, and there's attacks, and there's drought, and there's all these experiences that you're facing as you're just trying to like open up your heart to step forward in your full like potential, in a sense, or your possibility. But you can't ever know it unless you put yourself out there. You can't ever develop your voice unless you use it. And there's this awkward stage always in the becoming. And it's okay. And to me, I think a part of my intention of that presentation, of putting myself out there, was to make it like okay, and like a message that it's okay, it's safe to just try stuff, to put stuff out there and be a little awkward or a little silly or a little, weird or whatever,
I want to pick up what you said about finding your voice. You're never. How can you find your voice unless you use it? There's this chicken and egg thing. I think in general with progress, like just progressing in life, doing what you want to do. Like, how can I be confident about whatever it is? Well, what's going to make you feel confident is actually having like those things to feel confident about. So if you don't have those, then how can you just flip the switch and be confident? It is about acquiring things like if you're self-conscious about your body, then you go to the gym, and that's what gives a lot of the guys confidence, or being good at something, good at their job. But if you don't have that, then it's hard. But then again, you can have all those things and still not be confident. So it's like both. And I know this is how it was when I started recording music at first. When you start recording music at first, like, you're not going to be good. It's not going to, your first video, your first podcast is not going to be your best one. So you do have to start just putting yourself out there and then it's like a seesaw thing. Then you just go reflections, record your voice, see how you sound. You're not gonna like it, so then you change it, you make it better, and then you start, like, the confidence starts growing over time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, again, it's progressively getting better and all these stuff, and it's like there's this threshold, right? All this stuff, and yeah, I appreciate the works that you're doing over there with the, this week in tyranny, right? And all that stuff. And yeah, you're definitely one of the students that have just, just excelled, hit the ground running after you did your, the course and all that stuff. And that's great. And just, getting things into fruition and, funneling things down with, folks in network and, putting ourselves out there more with the presentations on Freedom Under Natural Law Conference. It was great. And both your presentations regarding music were just really spoken about weeks after the fact. It had rippling effects. There's the octaves of the frequencies being broadcasted out there, and like it hit some folks, in the places that needed to be, felt, I guess, right? So yeah, much respects and props to y'all.
It's such a pleasant experience to witness that blossoming out, or that vibration echoing and being heard, and then it's like hitting the gong again by new people. It's like passing the torch, and the vibration of that to new people in new places just keeps spreading, right? As we each sort of pick up a gong, or pick up a mallet, and do something with it. Yeah, it's really cool. And I think something about music, I think just the response is telling us something important. When I watched the One Great Work Warriors episode this week on music, everybody's passion was infectious. It was evident. It was there. It was exciting. You all had so much to say, and like you could have gone on for another hour or more, and I was like with you the whole time. I wasn't bored at all. It was all like inspiring because of the passion and the heart connection to the topic, and the personal experience and the emotions connected to memory. And so it's something really powerful here.
Hell yeah. And it's really, yeah, I really appreciate that, Leslie. It means a lot to me, actually, especially, when you did your presentation, and I guess you might not have found things so redundant in that Warriors chat. Great. Yeah.
I thought it was great, and you do see the reverberation of it, which is awesome. And I even see that after, like, you talked about the mallet, so it made me think of Chris and the tools. And then I had a conversation with Chris, so this is spreading. I know it was Chris and I were like really inspired and like moved by your presentation, Leslie, and I've gotten good feedback on mine. And Derek, you quietly did your own. I felt like yours was a freestyle, and you're like the DJ in the middle pillar in this scenario. Really, truly, like the
Yeah.
consistency, like you're always there. And then not only that, uh, Jerry, oh, he's just switched places. He's the DJ now for real. Got the turntables up, but and then Jerry picking that up, and us starting the Soundpath Music Festival, and at the same time, I want to say this has been, yeah, the passion has been there, the reverberation is there, but if you're not a musician, it's not just music like that. You've also had the Liberation Academy starting up. Like this is reaching pretty far. It's really these ripples of the funnel conference. So whatever this is now, it's that there's movement and influence in a lot of different directions. It makes me think of, we both, all three of us said this in our presentation, kind of put forward that idea that this is going to have to be a collaborative effort coming from all directions. And I also think of Jackie's presentation about the connectors and the mavens. We all know what's going to advance this freedom thing, but now it seems like a lot of us, at least in this small community, are doing it. We're not just going in one direction. It's not just all us with our individual podcasts. There does seem to be some actual motion in a wide variety of places, which is what we need.
Totally. I
Very
feel it.
flattering.
It's palpable. Yeah, it's more than I can keep up with, actually.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I've enjoyed sort of following chats and wanting to be kind of connected, but I can't keep up, you know. So that's actually a good problem.
Yeah, totally. Especially when you got your new project going out, with your women's circle. If you want to plug that in real
Yeah.
quick, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've begun an online women's community called Reviving Sophia Women's Circle, and it's geared towards women who have had histories of dysfunctional relationships, which really is many of us in different degrees. And it's about finding our own center, really, as we are navigating the relationships of life and the complex relational challenges. And it also includes knowing thyself, reviving Sophia meaning wisdom, and the wisdom being something that is very core in our essence, but which has been distorted and covered up through so much programming and trauma. And so the levels of trauma generationally and in our own lives, both big and small, but accumulative, really have gotten in the way of healthy relationships. And this isn't just romantic, but, relationships with your children, your mother, your father, even the relationships among women, because so many women have experienced betrayal and hurts from other women. So there's a certain trepidation for women to even come into a circle of other women. And so it's an interesting challenge, because I do think, though, that is one of the answers to our world, is women coming together and not being in a competitive place and really coming back to the feminine support. So this is really important to me, to create that environment, because that spirit of women sort of being present and safe for me was a very healing process. And it's something that you really can't experience the same with men. As far as my experience with men, I love men, but it's a different experience. And with women, we can connect and relate to the challenges of being in relationship and being a woman with our unique ways of seeing things, and we can really hold space. That's kind of a phrase that's maybe a little bit trite, but there's something real about it. It's there's not necessarily a need to have to like solve the problem, but to be there and to really understand it and resonate as a supportive landing spot, is what I'm trying to create. So if people are interested, the best thing to do would be to email me at revivingsophia@proton.me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll plug in some
Yeah.
edits with this, and
Yeah.
also we're gonna speak about this more in depth with my conversations with
Oh,
you
yeah. We'll get into.
and all that good stuff. And I'll save it for later.
Yeah, I do want to talk just about the concept of competitiveness, because it's
Sure, yeah.
related to what you were saying, Konrad, and to what that idea of not being competitive about just sharing your voice, because when this is a hyper competitive world, it's a hyper critical world. And I think that's like masculine energy on steroids, and women have really become ensconced with that same thing. Like we've taken it on, and it's hard not to in this society. But I think, there's a place for that driven sort of competitive ambition, right? But if that's overtaking the world, then the feminine is really being drowned, and the feminine is really about more presence and flow and non-linear progression. And I think we need more of that song that just spontaneity and expression creatively without having to say, well, no, you're off key, you're you're going the wrong direction, like, where are you going? You're not going anywhere. There's qualities in this that I think are missing in our world. We just need to embrace presence.
I love
The
that you
rapper?
say that. I do think the competitive spirit is a masculine thing, right? And I think it's the same thing as that thing that makes us want to solve the problem. Like we hear about a woman's problems, we're like, oh man, we gotta help her. Like, here's what you gotta do, and it's no matter how much you don't want to do it, you end up thinking like this is the male way to think, the masculine way to think, like solving the problem. But as you said, presence is a part of that too. You don't always go straight to the solution. Before you go to the solution, you have to like be there. And I think that this is the lost art of listening, like listening to somebody, listening to just really being there before you start imposing your perspective on it, like having the respect, or just, yes, the respect to be there with them just first for a bit. And I think this is like the beauty of reception as a principle, to receive something and not just assume that you heard somebody and then go straight to the action, because that's what we are. We're in a very solar masculine world. It's not about who makes the most money or anything, but it's a masculine dominated way to think, which is action and building more things. But when we're building on foundations that are where it's not based in morality, it's not based in love, we're just going to keep building and building more things that are they're going to be dilapidated, they're going to be falling apart, right? So now this is now thinking about it the other way, the art of listening and reception and presence, and just starting out here to just settling down for a bit and making sure that whenever we do get to building and grab our tools and everything, that we're going to be building the right things. So I love that. And there are things like, as much as I love women, there are just things that I'm not going to be able to. As much as I want to be involved, can't be involved in everything. Just got to step to the side, and there's
I
a
think
reason.
women supporting each other will take a burden off men. Actually, it'll create a healthier dynamic, where all the pressure isn't on the man just to be everything for a woman, because he can't. And
And I think
Wasn't meant
that'll
to be
take
that way.
some of the subliminal resentment away, right, between the genders as well, right? Because if men try to do everything, they're not going to be able to. And then I think there is a bit of like I think the competition is mixed with resentment. Like, if I can make more money than him, I can do this, I can do that. He's not living up to A, B, and C. What do I need him for? So this is all creating a conflict, and that is overshadowing the complementary nature of men and women.
Yeah, yeah, well said. And I appreciate what you said about the whole aspects of the art of listening. Yeah, that's really got to make a comeback, yo. And yeah, being out here in France, I've mentioned this in the good old Dissolve the Divide segments a little bit, with the noticing differences of people listening to actually understand and comprehend and actually try to relate or whatever with the person talking to them, as opposed to like listening to react like in other places, so yeah, that's that masculine action type of thing. It's like, oh, listen, it's like always got to say something to what the person's saying, instead of just like being present in the moment, like you said, mindful of it, having that container of information and holding it to the side until they're done, and then, okay, cool, and have some questions, maybe not just like, oh, but that, or no, I think this way, or whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's more harmony and balance with that aspect and interaction, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Oh, thanks, bro.
And in the middle, as it's just perfect, like even visually, that's exactly, I fully agree with that.
So I had some questions for you guys, a little bit, and I'll just start off real quick. Starting with Leslie, asks, why did both of you guys choose music as the topic for the good old funnel conference number 4? Because yeah, music obviously can inspire a lot of people, and the title of the conference or subtitle is, inspiring care to action, right? With the humanity rising on the top. So what's good with that, y'all? With your presentations,
Yeah, to add to what I've shared about what inspired me, it was definitely an emotional inspiration. Definitely emotional. And it was very connected to my own childhood experience, and my relationship to my father, and a tribute, to him, honestly, because in my own personal journey of, I don't know, like integrating my own life experiences in my childhood and my parents. I think that I didn't give my parents enough credit in a way, and I didn't hold that honoring of them. And God, it's going to make me cry now. My father, what I realized was, it's just I'm starting to see him, and the energy that he shared was such a gift of his own talent and his own expression and his persistence and consistency in himself as a musician. And he was a man who, his father didn't understand his creative drive and talents. He wasn't the kind of good, man's man kind of football, hunting kind of guy. He was the man who wanted to play this keyboard, and he became a master. And I had experiences, I could just kind of tell stories, but I don't want to belabor that too much, but of recognizing, he was a role model, of a person who had a really big heart and who was a master of the crowd and of like moving people with music. And he was like my Pied Piper. I followed him. Whenever I'd be alert and I'd be looking, and when I noticed he was going to the piano or the organ, I'd follow. And it was this very special memory, and I wanted to honor that. Right? I wanted to honor that as something really important. And even though my dad was gone a lot because he was working a lot, I missed my father, but this was a very important memory. And when my son was like, at the time, like 23 years old, maybe, and he's has this love for music, and we talk about it a little bit. He feels a connection to my father, because of this drive and desire he has, and he loves all types of music. So when he was like playing these old jazz standards one day,
I was surprised to listen to that too. It's like, damn, Benny, yeah.
yeah, like, and I swear I was transported to my childhood home, listening to the same tracks. Remember it feeling like I was home, and my dad was playing this music, and I was like, whoa, there's something that connects epigenetically, or I felt like maybe my dad's presence, spiritually entered the room,
Ethereal family reunion.
Yeah, and I started thinking about that, and I was like, there's something powerful here that transcends just the everyday. And I wanted to kind of just express it in some way. Yeah.
And he did so
That was
very
beautiful.
wonderfully and lovely. Yeah. Conrad, please. Thank you, Leslie.
I found it amazing because as I'm hearing what you're saying, that is exemplary of the divine feminine perspective. It's about the men in your life, your dad and your son, and the way it's very family based, right? Very personal to you. It blows my mind because when you asked the question, Derek, I'm glad you went first, Leslie, because that's a tough. I had to think about that one, and it's so hilarious now because the reason I chose music as the topic, which wasn't the original plan, it was such a simple masculine thing. I was thinking competition. I was thinking, I gotta perform, I gotta deliver something that's outside the box. I'm gonna be up against, not against, but I'm gonna be alongside the people that I'm looking up to as the natural content creators. Derek laughs at me because he knows the competitive part of me. So that is how it started. And I said, well, I really just gotta, the only way I know for sure that I'm gonna deliver is if I kind of break my, I gotta show courage, like for myself. I'm like, I have to. It was also an emotional thing for me, and I realized, okay, maybe I'll go in this direction because I'm doing music anyway. This is a big part of my life anyway, and I thought when I was choosing the topic that I was going to be the only one talking about music because it is kind of outside of the box, right? But funny enough, so my story, kind of mirroring yours, Leslie, is that it was very simple how I approached it. Is just I wanted to kind of fulfill my obligation. Like I just wanted to deliver. I just wanted to, uh, give my gratitude back and give the people something that just contribute the best way that I can, like to maximize what I have to share. And then it became something completely different. Kind of, I think this is how it goes. And with men in our lives, is we think one way, we got this little plan, we got the blueprint, we go to build it, and then it changes all around. We got to kind of learn how to work and move, and it was a beautiful thing. And I also at one point became just receptive to like synchronicities that were coming my way, and just realizing like, oh, like I'm getting some assistance here. So I got some help. Things were pushing me, the people around me, and then it became very easy. Um, but yeah, I could have really, it could have gone wrong, but because it was true, and I kind of let that weight off my shoulders, it was great.
Yeah, I'll just add too that as being one of the funnel organizers, that we each just picked a few people that we wanted to reach out to and invite. And so you were one of my picks. I had kind of decided a while back, like, oh yeah, I want to bring Konrad into the funnel. And so when I invited you, I had no idea. Like neither of us had any idea what you were going to talk on. I had the music idea. I remember, when it inspired me, and I started making slides actually probably months before. So I had already put in so much effort, and I didn't have time or energy to start over. And and I'm communicating with you, and I'm like, so what are you thinking of doing? And you're like, oh, music, right? And I'm like, oh, so am I. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Is this an issue or not? Like we're doing the same topic, but I knew that it would not be a problem. I just trusted. I trusted that, one, we're going to have our very unique and different takes on this topic, right? Just like natural law.
And just overall experiences with life and all.
Right, right. And it became this curiosity. It was like, and talking to the rest of the team, we're like, oh, we'll just put on one on each day, right? No big deal. It'll be exciting to see how it goes. And I feel like it is just another part of this energy that of a project having a life of its own when it's aligned spiritually. Like when you are on a track in alignment, the universe comes, and all these synchronicities happen, and it brings together this, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts kind of a thing. And it's beautiful. It turned out perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and
We
both of you guys really complimented, all the music that was sprinkled throughout the conference as well. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't checked the conference out, what the fuck are you doing? No, but, but
Yeah.
also to let you know that it's not just about people talking about, whatever subjects that you might think are, boring, or, oh, you already know that stuff, and maybe you not haven't heard it from these perspective
It's
folks
all
and all this
mind
stuff.
expanding,
Yeah,
even,
but with the music it mixed in too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And when the conference itself, when you bring, again, like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, we have however many, a dozen or more presenters, and how they all fit together is what made this the magic and the power of the event, I think. And rather than just, I mean, each individual presentation was very good and powerful in its own right, but it's the synergy of all of it and the energy of coming together in that weekend that really created something powerful of its own. And so I wanted to share that. Yeah.
I was talking about it all weekend, and I realized it from the second presentation. I realized, oh, like there's and the sequencing. I thought for sure you guys arranged it like, I'm like, oh, it's perfectly arranged. Like I thought of like a DJ, like sequentially it was done perfectly. But then Chris said to me like, oh, we haven't even listened to the presentation. I said, what? Like no way, because I
Yeah.
thought the way Chris Nelson started it off, it was very familiar. It was almost like an open, like it's the way an opening should be. Like if you've never heard Mark Passio, it's like something that's very like close to the core of philosophy. And then with Chris bringing in the spiritual mathematics, and he's setting up the octave and Pythagoras and all this, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. And with every presentation, I was seeing like the differences, but then the complementary, the similarities. So I was saying that I was in the chat, like, man, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, and I saw you notice that, and I'm like, yeah, I see it, and I feel it too. And I think that we did this balanced way of aligning up the day, where we both use sort of an intuitive and a logic together, because we know Chris Nelson, and we know Brandon Spencer, and we kind of know they're good, solid top, beginners on the day or whatever. But we also had just random things come in that put things in place in an even better way. Like Etienne de la Poitiers, we had originally wanted to put him on Saturday, but he couldn't do Saturday, so we moved him to Sunday. So then we moved somebody else, and it just turned out to be the most optimal order.
Super shuffle.
Yeah. So I feel that's what I'm saying. There's another element of spirit that stepped in, right? That's how I feel it and see it, and it's like trusting this divine intervention, so to speak, or this energy when you're in alignment with principle and you have courage to take action and you have the heart centered as your energy source, right? And then the angels come and they assist, however you want to think of it.
Sounds synchrolicious, yeah, for sure. And yeah, we did kind of judge a book by the cover of the present your title cards of that kind of stuff. So it was like we had that little insider information and I had my insider information, giving y'all a shout out in my presentation. It was like, yeah, talk about music. This needs to be mentioned because music is so powerful in the music within us. Just marching to the rhythm of your own fucking heartbeat, first and fucking foremost, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Related to that, and then you're stepping in stride with that confidence that we were talking about earlier. I think more and more, but yeah.
The other just little kind of lucky thing, if you want to call it, was
that too.
That Konrad had sent me, like multiple of his music tracks because we wanted to incorporate his music in between songs and so forth. But I didn't know that you were going to be doing live one of those songs, right? So we could have picked that song and repeated it, but we didn't, so it just like all turned out well that way too. Anyway. Yeah.
Derek, I was like, oh, I'll send it if they play twice. I'll no problem with it.
It wouldn't have been a problem at all, but I just found it to be extra cool, like that.
Yeah, it absolutely fit. Yes. To mention luck, there are two ways to see this. One is that you're getting assistance from outside of yourself, which is good. Like that's what family's all about. It's about others that we connect with assisting us. Nature assists us, the way the earth provides everything that we need to grow food and be nourished and have the shelter. But also the other perspective is that you make your luck. So that if you're honestly, with integrity, with joy, approaching the universe, that you're going to get those things back. It's that idea of those little microscopic subliminal ways that we can pick up on energy and body language. It seems like this world, this universe, picks up on, is this guy really doing what he wants to be doing? Like, is he having fun? Is he happy? Because you could say it's the placebo effect, but life shows that this is the case, that good things happen to people that are feeling good. And it's this, like, you could walk through, you could walk into the street and walk through a line that, walk down the highway, cut straight across. Not saying you should, but that's worked out for some people. And then somebody's being very careful and doing all the right things, and they have a freak accident. So, not to say that we have it figured out and we can play that game, play roulette with the universe, but I think there is a aspect to making our own luck. And when you do things the right way, when you care about doing something, but then also not putting so much heaviness and rigidity on it, when you're freely doing something that you care about, right? The passion, the love, we do get a lot of assistance. And it's up to you how you see it. If you're getting actual assistance, or if that's you you're calling your own helpers to yourself.
Yeah, whether you call it God or spirit or just the law, right?
Yeah.
The way that the natural law operates in the universe. It's giving you a nod. It's giving you a yeah. I think it is one of the ways to objectively sort of measure, and in some ways. Maybe it's not all objective measurement, but there's that blend of subjective and objectivity there as you're witnessing and feeling and experiencing natural law unfolding in your life. And if you're tuning into those synchronicities, I think it helps a lot, because you can miss it if you're just all in the head, you know.
Yeah, totally. And it goes back to the real law of attraction, subtitle of Mark Passio's Natural Law Seminar. And it's really about when you're in alignment and, operating from that on a daily basis, you're going to be much more of the cause point to the effects in your life type of thing. And so that blends in with what you're talking about of, cultivating, good fortune or luck, right? I don't have the tarot card for that, but yeah. Yeah. Can I ask you guys another question, or you guys want to say something else?
Go for it.
All right. So what were you're going into making your presentations? What was like your mission involved, like going in your mind? You kind of touched on it, respecting family and that kind of stuff. And Konrad, your experiences and involvement in love with music. But also, what were your kind of like desired effects that you wanted to kind of bestow upon the audience?
I had that one little excerpt from that black and white movie where it was where she's walking into a basement, everybody's dancing. My whole goal was to recreate the feeling that I have listening to that. And I know it's like really hard, like when you show somebody a song and you love it, like it's hard to explain how it makes us feel, like what I'm seeing there. But I thought that if I can somehow convey that, and if everybody can feel what I'm feeling, then we are going to have a free world, um, Mark says the same thing. He said, in a different way, he said, if there's only one thing I wish I could do, like I wish I could take people to where I was and see these people that are running to the world and just put them there. So this was my goal. It's like the alchemical goal of how do you take your limited perspective and somehow make somebody see that, and that's the magic of music anyway. So that's what music is. You're taking something that there's no way that somebody else is going to be able to experience, but putting it into a form that they could go in there and experience that. So I really wanted to carry that good vibe, just joyful energy, but also like a rebellious one. It's like love with an edge, So that was my goal.
Yeah. So yeah, it's harder for me to define like what my actual intention was, although because it had a life of its own, in a sense, of becoming it what it was. But as I started to develop it, what I realized is, and it's very consistent with just the way my mind is that I see the systems and the interrelationships and the interconnections. And so it's that somewhat of a broad view of connecting the intimate, personal, subjective experience, and then observing how it interconnects and these cosmic principles, right? So it's like a big goal. And kind of makes me a little crazy sometimes, and sometimes I feel like I'm packing too much things in here, but I have this little bit of compulsion that I
Yeah,
need
you're tying in a lot of things and
to
stuff.
try
You
to
got
get
like
all of this stuff.
cornucopia of soundtracks in the background. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
which just that all happened kind of, I didn't have the plan to have music throughout all of it. It just sort of developed that way. But I did want to sort of expand into bigger, broader concepts of cosmic, musical harmony, cosmic and natural law principles operating through all things, and frequency and vibration, and how it is something that interconnects us, and that is this dance between the objective and the subjective, and that it also is really highlighting that we are creators. We are a microcosm of the all that is, and that we are made of these concepts, and we can create with them, and that we have value in what we create, and that it's through our coming together and connecting through this modality, through the vast ways that you can use sound and frequency and vibration and movement, and incorporate our body, and recognize that it's not just about listening, but it's having all of these intricate effects on every cell of your body, and that it is something that affects your mood, your mindset, and do we want to be unconscious, or do we want to be conscious?
And how are we moving with those energies? Like you personified so gracefully in your presentation, right? Yeah.
We can sync up with energies, and if we're all syncing together, the power that is created from that it can be very moving, right? It's in so many ways. So the intention sort of developed as it was being created, I would say. Yeah.
I
I
think
like that progressive.
this is a thing that stood out to me, which I said earlier, is that I was impressed with the way this was like all encompassing. It was really like an A to Z about music. It wasn't so direct. It was like everything. And as you were talking and I was thinking about it, I think this is like a very feminine, even motherly way to see it. Like you're trying to think about everything, you're bridging all of these different systems, and not really giving a dissertation on one topic, but like bringing all of this wide field together. And so I see how it took on a life of its own. And I think, again, this is just another way that it's so complementary to the music theme and the rest of the conference, because it was like grand, I think.
Right. Yeah, I see that. And it can get cumbersome, and it can get like heavy, yeah, like a lot. Yeah. And so my challenge is always in like bringing in that more left brain kind of focused, more simplified pathway, but I have a really hard time with that. My mind is all like in so many directions. So these projects are very energy consuming.
Ooh, I bet. And that's a great segue for my next question, which is how was that good old process of the makings of your glorious presentations? Not to, like, but yeah.
I'll go first. I read first. I read a book first, and I thought I was going to have a lot of. I thought I started early, so I like, okay, I got a lot of time. Let me gather some material, research. It's really yeah, I was proud of myself for doing that and not just jumping into it, right? Like it was really a unique thing. I've never really done that before. Turns out I was reading for a while and I realized, oh man, I got to start making my presentation soon. So it happened kind of fast. But once I got everything together, I had the luxury of already kind of practicing for a long time, having my show and doing presentations before. I already kind of know my structure. I have my thing that I do. It's just the best thing to do for me. I'd never used to do this. I don't put it all in one document, my thoughts. I have different ones so I can move it, so I could have the physical, so I could rearrange it, and then I'm looking at what it's going to look like and just seeing it, having it in front of me, good old paper and pencil. And then it was really easy. So I guess that's my answer, is that there actually is a structure before you even put in your ideas. There's like a structure, and the structure can really help you if you have a routine or you have something that like your, I guess, work state, right? Like keeping this clean and having a time. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna do this, like your productive creative zones or space. And so it was that's how it was to create. It was actually pretty easy after the initial stress of like, oh man, I read this whole book, now how am I gonna incorporate this? So it's I guess having faith in your process, because otherwise it's nebulous, right? Maybe I could have freestyled that presentation, maybe it would have been good, but very good chance it wouldn't have been. So you can really help yourself out by having kind of a safety net of having a routine and a process, and then that lets the creativity like shine through.
Yeah, totally. Real quick, for the folks listening, what's the book you were referencing? In red?
I read Noise by Jacques Attali. It's called Noise.
Ooh la
He's
la.
talking about, I think the subheading is like the political movements of music. So it's really tracing music from like prehistoric times all the way through how it used to be, and the way it changed, the way the musician used to be an entertainer working for the king and the court, and the way things changed and it became mass produced, and the future of music. And so I'm glad you asked. I recommend that book. Jacques Attali, it was like I think a political economic
French?
advisor. So this may be a Club of Rome elitist type of a guy,
Yeah?
but maybe not. But really, really solid book. I also started to read Sonic Bodies by Julian Henriques, which is about the sound system culture, and Sonic Bodies is really about the materiality of music and the Jamaican dance hall culture, and this idea of music having a body aspect, having a matter aspect, which is like a whole nother thing to go through, but I wouldn't want to go into it until Leslie answers that. But since you asked about the book, that's the second one that I really had to. I was going to read that one too. I had to cut it. I said, I got no time. I got to make my presentation.
For me, I'll say my process is starts with a just a brain, like an impulse, intuition, inspiration. Let's say something will inspire me, and then I will just contemplate it. I'll start thinking about it, and then I'll usually start to see the topic coming in social media or in, I'll start Googling an idea or a thought, and then information comes to me, and then it just sort of develops a life of its own somewhat. But what helps me is when I have the idea, and if I feel inspired, then I go straight to Keynote and I start building slides. I create, start to think about, the main theme, and then I start to look for images and just get my initial thoughts down in a series of slides. And so is a foundation of a structure and some linear direction and a frame and container there. And then from there, then I will, it just builds and evolves as I go. But this time, I wanted to challenge. I've decided anytime I do a presentation, I want to do something I haven't done before. I want to grow in some way. And in my mind, like, I'm very inspired, like by Dorian Saracen, and her dancing. Like, she's a professional. She's like a top-notch like dancer. But what she's done is she's integrated her dance into small films, and I'm like inspired by that. So in the back of my head, I'm like, someday I want to create a video, where I'm incorporating dance and sound and like occult principles and stuff. But anytime I've thought about it before, I was just too overwhelmed. I didn't have the technical understanding of how to do it, the editing, or the confidence, or any of that. So I just had this little goal in my mind of, I'm going to just incorporate some of my self dancing into this, so to just break through that little barrier, that little sonic barrier, right, of doing something, and then building up some editing skills and adding in extra thing, like you guys, like the stuff you do, Derek, and it's so, you do it like easy, right? But when you don't know how to do it, it's so foreign, it's so big, it feels like. And I just got to whatever degree of understanding of the editing tools, where this time around it wasn't so big, it wasn't so scary. It was like, oh, why was I scared of this? And so I just started to do that. And then when I realized I could add the music, and I was able to do it without a crazy amount of, I was afraid that I wouldn't get the balance of sounds well. And that is a challenge, because audio is one of those things in video production that really can drive you nuts. And but I kind of got a rhythm with it, and then that just sort of expanded. It was like, barnacles or something that just keeps like growing, like extra arms and stuff. And so I asked like Logan Hart, because he, a lot of the background was him doing guitar riffs. And I had just asked him, like, I had this vision of just a little like guitar sound as a compliment. And he ended up sending me like some longer files. And I was like, ooh, this I could just sort of put in the background, so I just ended up adding, more and more. It's like, more, said the babies. Okay, to read my kids, it's like more. And so I just kept finding stuff and adding stuff, and it became so fun in the end. Actually, I was really enjoying, finding these little clips and getting a clip of Mark, and adding that in. And then Melissa Mari, it was a tribute to her, because she had, passed away, but not that long before. And she had touched my heart. And it's a really powerful musician and has a lot to say. And so I incorporated her, and another local woman who's, has some magic in her voice and her expression, and a band, friends of my son, who, I incorporated some of their music. And so it was all, most of it was kind of personal in a way. And then I added, so that felt good, to incorporate things that touched me personally.
Yeah, even a little Theo Luke's in the mix too.
Yeah. Theo sent me, because that was where I had actually, after we did our Dissolving the Divide with Theo, and I was like, oh, I'm going to create just a little ecstatic dance sequence, something really small, and put it in this presentation. So I said, hey, Theo, would you like to make some beats, So then and I'm like, just give me like 2 minutes. And he couldn't do that. He had to give me like 7. But so then I'm like, okay. And, my original, like you said, Konrad, your initial vision isn't what exactly gets created. Something new ends up being created. And so being for me, being not flexible, not too rigid, and going with the flow of things was important.
Fuck yeah. And I had to mention Theo because him and Konrad are going to be collaborating on some shit. Watch out for that. right?
That's awesome. Yeah, and there was also the tracks he sent me were also incorporated through the background as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
we've got one coming soon, and probably we'll do a few more. I'm gonna listen to his tape that just dropped May 1st.
he just put
So
out a new mixtape.
yeah,
Haven't listened to it yet because I had to work in between. And last time I got off, or before I started work, I was talking to you, Conrad, on that good old Sound Path to Freedom, and that was great. And folks interested in checking out more music, we have a music festival that was inspired by the Funnel Conference. Spearheaded by Jerry, and she's gathered folks like ourselves to help facilitate and organize a really cool event where we're inviting musicians and all that stuff. And in the meantime, we're doing a couple of sound sampling sessions that are quite hermetically sealed, and riffing off of every track and this and that, passing around, hot potato round table type of shit. It's good fun times and insightful as well.
really showing the kind of music that is part of our what we resonate with, but also that demonstrates the principles, right? The freedom philosophy, the natural law philosophy. So it's an offshoot. I see it as an offshoot of the conference. It's the funnel is it's its own thing, but we're picking it up and showing that there's like the science, right? The science of natural law, but there's also an art. There's also an art side to it. So it's going to be, I'm really looking forward to that event. I don't even know what to expect, right? Because I'm involved in it on so many levels, right? Like I'm going to be
Perform and
doing
all
this.
that,
Like
yeah.
I'm trying to do an hour-long live set, solo set. In the meantime, we're doing our sampling sessions. We're doing organizing, and yeah, for the people, just contact us if you want to be involved. There's a seat for everyone who just, and you can get in where you fit in.
Yeah, and we have a Telegram chat going on right now, as with the Funnel Conference chat that's still live and kicking, with a lot of folks from the Sound Path, like Jerry. Always being active in there. Much appreciation for them cats, and yeah,
I'm
keeping it
really
rolling, right?
I'm really touched by the cooperation, the collaboration, there's a people taking individual responsibility, right, to create and not feel like you have to get permission, right? It's a good model of how anarchy is working in action. And so when the Funnel Conference was inspired by the Seed Conference. So Brandon Martin's Seed series of Seed conferences inspired. Chris Jansen was the first. He was the first one to bring the idea forward. He's like, "Yo, we could do our own conference too. We could do a conference, and how about we start thinking about that?" And it just started one foot in front of the other. It became a reality. So there's a legacy of like appreciation and inspiration from this solid foundation. And then when we had this last conference, we felt very inspired and had ideas, and we were also jiving with this idea of music, and had already been kind of brainstorming this idea of having a funnel music conference day or something. And then next thing I saw is like, wow, you guys had already like taken that idea and like we're real serious with running with it. And in a way, it was kind of cool because in reality, our core team has a lot of great ideas, but we don't necessarily have the energy to follow through on all of them. It sounds great in the heat of that moment, but the realities of our lives and our commitments are that we couldn't really pulled it off. But so I'm really grateful that you guys took that and ran with it.
Yeah, and it is so much work. I mean, like it's just it worked out the perfect way because Jerry is the perfect person for it. She's got so much drive and also like skill to bring people together. And then her and John now in the background being this like dynamic duo, like you and Chris. It's like exactly what it needed to be. They they picked me up at the right time because I wanted to take this music thing. I'm very passionate about that. So uh, yeah, and this is only the first, right? This It's not a one-off like funnel, like freedom under natural law, and then who knows what we will inspire uh, coming off of the heels of that. And since you mentioned it, I got to give a shout out to Brandon Martin because that declaration of I don't know exactly the title, but you could just call it the declaration. Like it was such a
Declaration of
beautiful thing
Freedom, I
that
think
was
it
like
was
towards
just
the
simple.
end. Yeah, that was awesome. That I thought that was yeah, so it's nice to have that kind of like linear progression, and then who's going to be the next now? We've got Soundpath, and who knows what's going to happen,
Yeah.
who's going to be inspired by that.
Yeah, even if we kind of flop or whatever, it doesn't turn out to be all that successful. It would inspire others to be like, oh, I see what they're doing. We can do something better. Then fucking do better. You
If you want to
have
have that competitive
raise those
spirit, make
standards.
it in the direction of just creating good stuff, but not putting down the efforts, right? That's what
Yeah,
we don't want to have. We don't want to be kind of dissing people and putting down people's efforts and good intentions, because that just slows the energy of creation.
yeah, totally. And you
Blocks.
you were
Yeah.
talking about like energy. Yeah, like it's exacerbating sometimes. Just it's like you got to take a breather after doing the conference organization and all this stuff. And yeah, it's like we were like meeting up every week, and that's like, oh shit, like let's once every other week, kind of like dissolving the divide as well, and all that stuff. And it's totally fine because time is of the essence for a lot of people, and to have their presence in their daily lives and take care of stuff as well. So yeah, and that
Many hands make light work, right?
voila, yeah.
Many hands. And we're creating like a mycelium, it's kind of
Ooh,
think
yeah.
of it, a network of
Mystic mycelium.
interconnected, threads that support each other. That's how I see it. Like the individuals and the organizers of Funnel, we're connected to the organizers of Seed, and we support each other. And now we are connected to you guys, and we support you. And Will calls them nodes, like little freedom nodes, and we're creating these nodes that have like the symbol. You can see how there's tentacles, invisible lines of connection between us.
Yeah, like the
And
Europa Natural even.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's to me how we're creating this net, right, of foundation that we can continue to expand around the world, right? It's happening around the world, which to me, like the Europa stuff, so exciting. And yeah, so I get excited and inspired by these images, that
It's a
energy.
web.
Yes.
It's a web. It's a decentralized network. This is the idea. The world we live in I call it the occult web of control, and this will also be the way we solve the problem of slavery and have a free world. It's going to have to be a natural web of freedom, because freedom is not just it's not a natural state that is just going to uh, exist through perpetuity. It is something that requires effort. It's like the web. You need those nodes on the web. You need connections. That's what a family is. It's a decentralized network. There's no master, there's no central leader, but it's connections, it's links, and it's relationships, and we all support each other, make the web stronger. That's what a network is.
Yeah, totally. And we could say there's, certain head honchos or specific leaders or founders of specific groups, nodes, organizations, whatever, right? But still, like, it's a group effort, right? And there's no cultish aspects of it as far as I'm concerned, so fuck all that noise that be chirping in the background sometimes. But yeah, anyways, I wanted to ask a couple more questions. We can go on for 5 hours if you want, but maybe we'll break it off at 2 if that's cool with you. But
Mhm.
so we talked about why you chose the music, what your missions were and desired effects, the process of making it. I'm gonna touch on another. You guys already kind of touched on what inspired you. What I wanted to ask you, what were your favorite parts of the makings of the video, and also I'll follow up with the next question afterwards in regards to looking back on it and watching it and seeing some of the feedback and stuff. What your thoughts were on that as well. So, first question would be of one of part two. What were your favorite parts of making this video? And I could do a part 2.1 of what were the more frustrating parts, but that's always fun. But it gets too technical sometimes, so let's just keep it easy breezy, whatever.
Well, ladies first.
I think the funnest part was adding in all the music and the little moments where I felt like, oh, that just perfect. Like having Mark Passio's "Wake Up," right after Melissa Murray's song, like the way that worked out, I just loved it, and made me happy. And the little guitar riff that Logan gave me that I was able to time with that little woman dancing and flowing with her white, like I was like, oh, that turned out good, So it's these little victories.
Okay, that's an interesting edit you did there. Bravo, bravo.
Yeah, it was I was amazed actually how it worked well. And so then I was just having fun adding the background and kind of excited that I was able to find a volume that seemed to work, although it was hard because and this is a frustrating aspect, is something was off with my original audio and I couldn't go back and change it, and there were a lot of sounds that were being that didn't belong there. And then I ended up not being able to get it into the high resolution because of a weird thing with
Jeez, I remember that.
iMovie, because I'm
Yeah.
not using the greatest editor. And so there were some things in the end, like I was disappointed that should have been in high resolution 1080, and I cannot ever get it into 1080. And we tried multiple ways. So it's a bummer, right? And one of those disappointments, but it is what it is.
I'm blown away by the way our answers are contrasting and complementing, because for me, interestingly, it was the visuals. I enjoyed the visuals the most. Like, I'm thinking, my fear with making presentations is I don't want it to look like a presentation. I hate the square box, the white background. Like, I think they're so like tacky. I used to do a lot of presentations in school. I'm still traumatized by school. I didn't like that stuff, right? So I wanted to make it look different. I wanted to really go as far as I can outside of the boundaries of a presentation. I want it to be like more like a movie, like an experience, But so making I used the image. I found the image. I'm picturing like a like the center stage in like a grand auditorium in an opera house. Like that's what I wanted to look like. And I looked through so many images, and I wanted to make that my background for all the slides, not just and that's basically what I ended up doing. I'm like, okay, now I need a text box, but I didn't want to put a text box, so I used like a plate. It ended up being like a medieval like metal like plate. So I changed that and I messed around with it in Photoshop a bit, and then so I really enjoyed putting it together, and really, uh, it's really an unorthodox thing. But my presentation was fully made in Photoshop. It wasn't made in any presentation software. It was just I'm taking a box, I'm putting the text on the box, I'm moving it around, even playing with font in Photoshop. It was a little bit like it took a little bit more time, but I wanted it to look a certain way. So the whole thing was about music. And the funny thing is, they say about men, we're visual creatures. And the visual part of it made it really fun for me to make it look like that.
Wow, that's impressive how you did that. Wow.
Yeah, and when I was looking at your presentation and the slides, like, damn, those text box things look really dope. Like, what kind of what color is that, or how do you so yeah, man.
It
I
was
love
like
hearing about
a
these little aesthetics. Yeah,
Thank you. It was like a classic scroll. I tried to find like a scroll
yeah,
and
yeah,
have that color, but not have it white, to have it be a little bit so playing with the colors. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, totally. And I guess with the second question to follow up with that, it would be what I just mentioned with when you looked back, after it was all said, done, finished, finalized, compressed, sent to funnel, watched on the live stream, and you saw it for yourselves, being there in the moment and stuff, what were your feelings, thoughts, and overall sentiments about it all?
About my own presentation or the whole
Right, yeah,
conference?
both your own presentations. Yeah.
I was
It's not
like,
to gas you
I
up or
felt
no
really,
ego inflation or that kind of shit, yeah, but
I was really relieved and happy because I could see at the beginning, I didn't know how it was going to be received. I was well received. And then when it finished, I'm like, hell yeah. Like I did what I wanted to do. So I was very happy about it. But then I didn't have too much time to be happy about it because I went straight to the other presentations. I was so impressed by everyone else. So I was just like grateful. You come into it thinking, okay, you're the main act, right? So you're going to have to do your job, and then you're going to get your round of applause or whatever, or they're going to boo you. But it wasn't even thinking. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just so wrapped up in what everybody else was doing, being impressed with them, happy for them. So it was like a double good feeling. I felt good that I did what I wanted to do, but also it's like it didn't even matter what I did because there were so many other things that I could enjoy.
Yeah, so what I was happy with was that it didn't completely like wipe me out energetically. That I was happy that I did pace myself and was able to. I wasn't in this mad rush at the end of editing because I was with my last one, The Reviving Sophia, and it totally wiped me out. Took me like a year to recover. And this one, I was really sure I wasn't going to let that happen. And so I was happy that I actually ended it in a timely manner. I wasn't doing crazy like hours of editing, and I overall felt really satisfied with it. But I was also a little nervous about it being different and not sure how it would be received because I know that there's very left brain folks that not going to connect with that style that I created. And so I guess some of the criticism is that I was imagining receiving or hearing or wondering about was that I wasn't linear enough. Maybe I wasn't talking more directly enough about natural law. Maybe that I try to pack in too many things, so I just had these little kind of worries. And my presentation is so different than all the others. And I'm like, oh, why do I have to be the weirdo that's different? Kind of thing, But at the same time, I'm embracing it. And I really think that my presentation was kind of like an experience, maybe. And there's a lot in there. There's a lot. Like all my presentations are packed with so many threads and layers. And so I think it is something that I do kind of appreciate, but I do know that is for some people, they're not going to really appreciate it, maybe. So it's like, it is. I've come to this place where I'm just like, I'm going to put my energy in, I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to grow each time. And then I'm going to disconnect from my fear of critiques, and I'm not really heavy on going back and like micro critiquing myself. I can't I don't have time for it. One. And I think it would become a barrier of my creative energy. It would stop me. And I have to be really careful that I'm not comparing and I don't have, like little jealousies or little envies of like, oh, I didn't show off, I didn't demonstrate, I don't have this level of technical expertise or, what is Mark Passio thinking? He's probably not, like the silly thoughts, things that go through your head, things like that.
It was so good. It was so good, and you I think you're the only one that had the oval. Like it was like the amulet, like the way you had the everything about it was so good. And like
yeah, you mean her video cutout was that was dope.
Yeah, but like visually how it was and the sounds, After, like, I almost cried. Chris cried. Like, it was an experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
the
And
courage. That's the courage part, you know.
fuck yeah. And Leslie, I just want to say that, you honored your elders' lineage with that in a profound way, and it
Thank
was well received by others very much as well. And yeah, as far as like networks are concerned, after the funnel conference, from what I gathered from some of this, even Europe and Natural Law and other things on Telegram, whatever, like y'all were more the talk of the town than others, so hats off to y'all. So it does resonate with people because music is such a universal art form, a form of language as well, whether it be instrumental or with lyrics and all that stuff, right? So yeah, that's off to y'all. But I'll just say real quick that uh, after I finished my presentation and sent it to the, you know, Will Keller, Leslie, y'all, I, I was in shambles. I fucking wept for days. I lost my voice. My throat chakra was fucking burnt the fuck out. And you even saw me at the funnel conference. I was still live and direct, but I was like lack of sleep, just hours on end, just trying to get it all in, and yeah, kind of like not really pacing myself properly, like Konrad in the beginning, and kind of just gathering stuff here and there. Like, yeah, that's cool. I'm doing all this. Oh shit, I actually got to get it together, and
Right, and
the
then
things come up. And
you had a power outage, right? Like a big event, like
yeah, some
block your progress too. Yeah,
yeah, some things that came up that kind of stifled what I really wanted to do. But I'm just happy with what it came out with, and just leaning back on what I'm more comfortable with, in throwing in like, all right, speak to the camera. You have some notes or just mental cognizance of what you're trying to say. Throw it out there, and then edit it later. Throw some slides in and all that stuff, and insert little music clips or whatever, and voila.
yeah. It's a rite of passage. I just want to say, creating
Ah,
these
thanks.
things
Yeah, yeah.
is good, puts you through your paces, and you are facing hardships in some way or another. All of us, I think. Yeah.
Derek, watching yours, I felt like it's like I felt proud, like, because you come from the hip hop, or like we come from the same place. I feel like just that, like I know you well, even though we haven't talked all that much, right? But so it was awesome, and I loved seeing like the different cuts. Like, it's just very direct, talking to him, and there was like different levels of anger and frustration, and I'm like, hell yeah, I loved it. I really enjoyed that one so much.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, it was good. It was cathartic, obviously, but yeah, it's just throwing it out there in with some comedy and humility as well. But
Beautiful scenery, live
yeah,
scenery. Yeah.
I wanted to do something different. Go out and show the world kind of where I'm living at and what I'm inspired by as well. And also, hey, like all these podcast presentations, they don't always have to be in this one specific cookie cutter type of thing, even though I don't see folks within the conference doing that per se, right? And we had Etienne de la Botier squared who was out lounging in like I don't know if it was Cancun or whatever, but he was
Acapulco.
exactly, yeah, so it was just cool. It was just a really dope variety of so many different people coming from a lot of different places across the map, and drop in truth and facts, and that's a wrap.
I
But I
agree.
think you uniquely had like the vlog feel where you were moving. Like, I think everybody else had uh,
Correct.
a set location for the most part. So that was another unique thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I concur with your sentiment around wanting to mix up the overall vibe, because if every presentation is just sort of like this very linear, very square shape, certain slides, it will lose some people as well, possibly. I think mixing it up with different creative ways of expressing natural law principles is really the key to expanding in our audience and engaging people in more of their senses, and accessing intuitive things, and because we need to not just appeal to intellect, right? And natural law is not something that you can really understand with just linear thought. Now, it is an experienced thing, and there's a deepening of understanding. And so I do think mixing up the ways that we are teaching it with all, and waking people up, you have to shock them a little. Sometimes you got to be like, oh, what's that? That's different,
Yeah, totally. What other notes do I got? I got so many, so many.
I have a question maybe for you guys.
Yeah, sure.
It's a little bit of a pet peeve. It's like a loaded question because I have a strong opinion about it.
Ooh, I love that.
But it's the idea of, there is a question. Whoa, I'm like feedback. There is a question. I'm feeding back. I'm wondering if I'm feeding back on you. Yours, Derek? Maybe mute.
I heard that. It'll get edited out. I noted that.
Okay. So there was a question about who are we seeking?
Wait, hold on. Is that coming from you, Konrad? If you mute your mic, would that be better?
Yeah, how about now?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's better. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So there was a question of who's the audience, when we're making these conferences. Who are we trying to attract to listen? Are we trying to get beginners? Are we trying to get people who are on the cusp, maybe newly interested, which is kind of where I think we are wanting to attract people into this understanding. And so I think that's another reason why the music idea is great, because it's going to bring in people in another way, people who are, not going to want to listen to just these presentations. But I also, there was a comment that I disagreed with, is like, we don't need to bring in natural law people. And I'm like, no, we do. This is also for all of us in the so-called natural law community who have been inspired by Mark Passio's work and other teachers and writers and philosophers. And I think that it is important that we strengthen the bonds of our network, like we were talking about, creating that web, and that it's also about building morale and sense of connection and relationship among us. And I feel like that was one of the successes of this conference, was that I think now I have new friends. We're not as alone. And we, have it sort of puts wind in the sails. We need to build the morale and positive aspect of our community, of a community of some sort, So I do think that, and the other part of it is that, like, if you think natural law and you got it in your head, chances are you can deepen that understanding. And every time I listen to a presentation by Chris Nelson, Brandon Spencer, I hear Brandon Martin talk, or Nate Cap talk, or Chris, or you, Konrad, or Derek, and I am learning, I'm expanding my understanding of these concepts. The more times I hear the concepts said with different voices, with different words, in different modalities, it's deepening my understanding of natural law. So I wanted to point that out. And what do you guys think? That's not a question. I was my soapbox.
Yeah. Konrad,
it is a question.
I'll let you hit it.
So there are two equally important parts for me. One is to maintain, cultivate, and like like you got to water the garden, you got to take care of the relationships you already have. So the people we have in this community to stay connected is super important, but it's also important to bring new people in. Like, I think our goal in general is to bring in young people because it is the long game. Like we need to get people, it's just that have the highest amount of potential. We all make the choices we make, and over time, as we in our life we reach a more finite amount of choices, and we can influence people less and less. So I think we need to be influencing the young people. That doesn't mean make TikToks, or you can, but the point is don't jump on their trends. There's going to be a huge percentage of young people that are craving something old school or something that still relates to them. But young people aren't stupid. They know we're not them. We're not I'm not relating to 18-year-olds. Not really. I'm kind of there, but I'm not, and that's okay. Like, we can embrace that, but still kind of meeting them halfway, reaching out to know where they're at. Again, this is like the art of listening and being able to see what the people around us are going through. I think it is important to bring young people. It's super important to bring women in. So thinking about young women, but like, good luck appealing to hey, we're doing our best, but so there's that's the topic of bringing in new people into the movement, which I think is important. But then if you do that and you neglect the relationships you already have, then you don't have a community, and it's just like a revolving door, right? So it's like, just like the subjective and objective have to work together, the masculine and the feminine have to work together. We have to have a mix of veteran characters, people that have respect those relationships long standing, but also the new, the fresh. And that is, I think, a natural, that is how nature works, is the way your gut microbiome and everything has to have variety and a mix, and like an osmosis and ability for the things in the system to go in and out freely. And then naturally you're going to have tighter bonds forming close to the center, the nucleus, but it's not a rigid system. So that's how I think.
So well said. So well said. And the image that came to mind too, that is a natural image, is that of kind of the progression of life, from infant to elder, and really valuing all stages of that developmental path, and having an elder kind of crone population, or the wizards, and you know and respecting people that have been in the game longer, and looking to their work and inviting, including, but also bringing in the young and the fresh and the new and all in between. Yeah, it's like a beautiful image to me.
Yeah, definitely, and especially with how this conference just unraveled. It was really great. It was just all fire all around. It was great, and you know, tailing off of what Conrad mentioned, yeah, just all these elements involved in this and that, and it ties into the subtitle of your presentation of bridging matter and spirits through the power of music with Leslie's conference. And I wrote this down, just randomly before the recording with talking with Conrad, and just like, even working your magic, your music, your sound song frequency symphony, that is yourself, your authentic true self, right? You're bringing the magic out of the mundane. Like, n- I don't have the best job in the world. Conrad doesn't have, like, but we're still making things happen, and even coloring outside the lines, as you mentioned, Conrad, right? And just, yeah, man, just like having to improvise, getting out of these rigid structures, and it's like tagging your fucking name on the wall, graffiti style, that fucking real hip hop shit. And rest in peace to all the real fucking artists out there that have been doing the real work and alchemizing all the bullshit that's going on in society, and making fertile soil to plant proper seeds of consciousness for those that are out there able to listen, and help man's estrangement from nature's music become more harmonized with that, you know flipping the script on that sonic divorce, as Conrad's presentation went, right? So yeah, props to both y'all with those. And it's kind of reminds me of when Leslie and I had our little pre-funnel chat and this and that with the, how I love, this old school, compilation mixtapes or whatever, where you just get a variety of, streams of artists and their wordplay, lyricism, and all this stuff, and like, whoa, who are these? I gotta listen to this. Like, wait, I know this, but they said it like that. Like, holy shit, like just like all these different perspectives, like Leslie was talking about. It's magical and it's really great, and this is what the world needs because, yeah, the truth is, I'm sorry, the lies are being broadcasted 24 fucking 7 throughout all different modalities, of course, right? So how the fuck are we going to counteract all that shit, right? Voila, we're trying to make things happen and putting things more into motion, and it's great that we're seeing more and more people being engaged and active and participating more. So keep it up, y'all. Really appreciate it. And yeah. And yeah, right now. That's
Yeah,
the word for
yeah.
the
That was,
Get out
I
there.
was
Keep
like,
going, bro.
that's a good way to, I think, close up this. There's nothing more to
Yes.
say.
You didn't even tell us you were going to do an intro, and you did the perfect one. I mean, outro. You just wrapped it up. I'm like, he didn't even tell us.
Yeah.
Hey, I just noticed that
Classic.
both of our titles had connection in it. Like yours was like the bridge, so building a bridge, and then of course the divorce would be when that bridge collapses. So we're both.
I know that also hit home in Derek's poetic little thing there.
So yeah, I know that was good.
Yeah. This has been fun, actually, talking about this. I appreciate you bringing us together, Derek.
Hey, my pleasure. And I wish been telling folks on the funnel chat and elsewhere, like, hey, like people that have been presenting, that are putting out work and this and that, the majority of them are open if you want to reach out to them and do an interview, kind of like what I'm doing right now. Find something that you were inspired by, list a couple questions, and just like, some streams of conscious conversation that you want to bring to the table, and voila, that's part of the magic in the making, right? So yeah, I
For
totally
sure.
appreciate both of you guys coming on and obviously, and keeping it strong and just being consistent with your presence with the works and the quality of the work that you do. So yeah,
Thank you,
in
Derek.
network and in real life.
Yeah, thank you so much, Derek. I got a lot of respect for what you do in a lot of ways. I tell you here and there all the time, but it's awesome. So I'm so happy that you brought me here, and Leslie, it's beautiful to see you. Thank you again. Thank both of you guys for bringing me on to Funnel, because you were a part of it too. Derek, it seems like you're everywhere, but
For sure he is.
really grateful for that. And without that, I wouldn't have the soundpad thing, which is now. Yeah, it's like another big thing. It's just another big thing that means a lot to me, and it's beautiful. So, I love this little inner circle we got.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Speaking of inner circles, I'm holding a little. I found this. It's been laying there by my bongo drum over there, and I'm like, oh yes, I've been looking for this.
Stress ball. There you go. And I just really admire your work, Konrad, and I am very impressed with your ability to weave these ideas and principles together very poetically, really very articulate and high level. So I always am expanded, really, just hearing you talk. And bring attention to, we did a Dissolving the Divide episode with you a while back. I think it was related to climate change. Very interesting take on that. And it's been great to see you more in the chats, and like really feeling like you're right here as a brother, with us. So it's awesome. Thank you. And Derek, as always, like super appreciate everything you do and admire, and I witness, your heart and your hard work. Yeah.
Yeah, really grateful for the kind words spread around everywhere for everyone, and yeah, it's putting more wind in the sails, as you mentioned. And yeah, I love that term. And, we got to keep the ships navigating to the proper direction, you know, like what do we got? Yeah, kind of like how that sound path to freedom kind of evokes in a sense. So yeah, keep shining your lights very bright. But I guess not so much that'll, give someone a sunburn or whatever, but I don't
Right, finding the right balance, right? Really important. Yeah. So Sound Path to Freedom's in September, yeah? We'll put a plug.
Yeah. Late August, early September.
yeah. You could get some hermetically sealed sunscreen, maybe that'll stop the burn.
There we go. All right, guys.
Yeah, it's been so great and valuable and wonderful having you guys on, chatting with you guys, listening to just how you guys, wield your magic with your presentation and everything you got going on the side, and just keep on keeping on and keep on keeping alive and thriving.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Sorry for my audio issues. I'm hoping that it wasn't that it was good earlier, but then I forget to mute the mic here and there. So
I'll edit it out, man.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, I didn't hear it early on. It just
Great.
Yeah. I don't know why all of a sudden it started. It's just weird audio shit.
Yeah.
Well, I'll catch you next.
I'm being called.
All right, guys, I gotta run. I'm going out of town. I gotta go pack my bag. And
Bon voyage. I'll catch you next week in this tyranny.
Much love.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm going to Texas. I'm meeting up with Stephanie Mo Davis, Corey Enderlot, and Scott Gordon. We're going to be, which is the first time we'll all meet in person, which is just like cool in itself. We're actually going to spend the night and stay at Colin Davis's house and get to, another like, expansion, just deepening of a connection, right?
Yeah, Konrad, do you know who Colin Davis is? He's the husband of Melissa Mary, who passed away. That was given homage.
Wow! I missed the name. Yeah, I just saw watched the presentation. Wow.
They're both heavy duty. They're both musicians. They do heavy metal, but Colin's like really deep teacher of Jungian psychology and understanding the shadow work, and he's got a recent book out, Shadow Work for the Red Pilled Initiate or something like that. And so he's brilliant guy, newer to our community, but they're good people. And so we're going to be doing on Mike Adams' podcast, The Health Ranger, which is it's like craziness. I'm like, whoa.
Awesome.
That's like you're all on the map.
Yeah, so I have no idea where this is all going to go, but it's another project that it could expand.
Alex Jones gave Mark a platform. This is like there's something to be said for these people that are higher up in the, maybe even some question marks around them. But, the fact of the matter is that is a connection, that is a door that's being opened. And that's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, a wider audience.
Yeah.
A better audience. Yeah. Yeah. So I had no idea where this project was going to go when it started. This was like Corey interviewed each of us for his Freedom Summit, and then he picked us, he pulled us together and said, I want to do this presentation. He was calling it Statism Diagnosed around the healthcare system. And then he sort of said, hey, give me your ideas about things you'd want to say, about this. And we each contributed. And then he ended up organizing it like in this brilliant way. But we're a good team in that we get in sync with each other, and we know what the next thought is. Like it unfolded amazingly naturally, but it's so long. I mean, it turned into like a 485 slide presentation. And that's because
Corey can't stop it.
And it's so comprehensive and but it's, if somebody has the patience to listen to this all, it's woven together in this brilliant way. And it's pretty masterful, honestly.
Yeah. I saw them both. They're really
there's like 7 or 8 or 9. Like we haven't even finished. There's like going to be 9 or.
Damn.
8, yeah. And they're like 3 hours long, some of them.
For sure.
Yeah. It's hours and hours. We've been meeting over a year. So it's coming to a close.
Fruition.
Yeah. So.
I'm looking forward to it.
Elevating
Yeah.
too. So yeah, all the best with your travels, Leslie, and all that. And
yeah. All right, guys. I gotta go. We'll see you later. It's good to see
right.
you. Bye.
Bye.
ciao.
What's lonely? Warrior path in the field of cowards, that's lonely. I talk my shit, but I'm trying to speak knowledge only. Keep the ego down, it's me, myself, and not only. Eyes open only. Speaking of which, my vision cleared up 2020. They say seeing is believing. When you see for real, that's faith. Real talk, way more than just believing. Most of y'all are just watching. You can watch all day but not see it. What's vision? Not just looking but seeing. And not just seeing. Seeing just the present but future times coming. Former times leaving. The times keep changing. The pussy stay looking. I got the vision to see the effects of my decision. Choreograph a motion picture from a still image. The dark still in it. More than night vision. Underwater pitch black abyss. Great white vision. Under pressure you can see the speed of light different. I got resolve like Da Vinci. Out here laying down my tracks like my timeline just shifted. I take it monochromatic, I get down with black magic. When white was the habit, my vision was clouded. My days overcasted, start man for crank, I should've been casted. Tweak, constant man, MD, low-key. I'm OCD, but I ain't talking about me being on the spectrum. Love for every man that's sitting in corrections. I'm the kill to end slavery, not taking no question. Two eyes converging on one and then you see. Out here for truth, love, freedom only. One true purpose gets somewhat lonely at the top. To be and not to be, cut the hypocrisy. Real and authentic, I meant it. Ain't no other way that I got to be. Approaching source in my wave life form, but I will choose a door if the light coats are onto me. This world war torn, I rebuilt the stone and armor was worn from vision to form. Cold as ice in the eye of the storm. I've been ready for war ever since I was born. Seeing outer space, find maneuver space-time. Tool and belt on the waistline, yeah, I be working hard, but the soul don't waste time. No other man's vision can't rearrange mine. To the eyes of most, my world goes unseen. Can't even get close, they'll never get high from the illusion they dose. I slave notes, and the ballots and votes, and berets and coats, all the eyes stay closed. Why would it change for some cowardly hope? And the action times comes, they soak, you do what you're told. Ghost of liberty has been invoked, can't see the targets, you don't have my scope.